You got it right here. Okay, so very first time on the leash here with Ford. Ford's a big boy. He's a 4-year-old Great Dane, very handsome. Oh boy, so very first time here. He just checked in last night. So we're kind of just getting to know each other a little bit. Unfortunately, Ford's going to be looking for a new home, but we want to get some training under his belt first. And he wasn't, I guess, socialized too much is what they're saying. So he's been around other dogs and interacted with dogs fine, but I guess maybe he's had a little bit of reaction on the leash. I'm not sure. Previous owners, but the person who had him now, who's getting him this training, has said that he's done well with all of her dogs. So far he's been okay with all of the dogs that we have here, just in terms of being around them. We haven't had him actually interact yet, but there's no reaction or anything. I mean, usually, Great Danes are very sweet by nature, usually. I mean, yeah, they could be a little bit protective, maybe in their yard or in their home, but for the most part, they're pretty sweet-natured dogs. At 4 years old, he's halfway there. He's halfway. They don't live a long time, so he's pretty mature at this point. So we're looking just to get some skills under his belt, and hopefully be able to use that to help him transition into his new home. So I don't know. Let's see how it goes here. Very first time. I'm just going to be sort of walking him around, seeing how he is on the leash, and maybe start to do a little bit of testing him with some impulse control and things like that. Got him on a very tiny rope lead right now. We do have another large lead here, but let me see first. We'll see which one. I don't know what tool is going to be best for him yet. We just have the rope leads. But let's see. Come on, boy. Come on. So first we'll just kind of start walking around. I'm going to use the leash to give him a little bit of guidance. Good boy. He's willing to come with me. Come on. Good boy. Unfortunately, we just did a live session with one of our other dogs. Fortunately, I didn't hit the button correctly, so I wasn't able to capture all that gold that was going on there. So we want to see how it works out here. Good boy. Good. So he's willing to follow. Simple, just a little bit of pressure on the leash. He's going with it. That's great. Trash truck going by right now. Good boy. Not too insecure. Didn't really even pay attention. That's great. All right. So let's see. We need to tell him, come on, Ford, let's go. Good. So, I'm very, very clear with, come on, Ford, let's go. All right. I want to let him know that we're moving. I'm going to eventually turn this into a heel, right? But I'm very clear with, let's do this, right? Good boy. Good boy. Good. He's willing to eat the treats. Good boy. Come on, Ford, let's go. Good. Come on. So I make my turn. I engage the leash a little bit. All right, so watch right here. Watch right here. I make my turn. I engage the leash to get him to follow, right? He's actually doing really well with following on the leash. There's no resistance. Yes. There's no hesitancy. He's not jumping up, bucking all over the place. It's really good. Again, we're working with a very, very mature brain here, okay? But I am asking him to go with pressure, right? And that's really something I wanted to evaluate right now was how does he do with going with pressure? We got a yawn right there, right? So anytime we get a yawn, at least when we're doing work like this, or I don't know, I'm trying to think of different situations that, look, anytime you get a yawn, it's usually that the brain is working, right? So I'm not sure in his 4 years if anyone's ever had him on a leash like this and just started doing some walking back and forth exercises, right? I'm not sure. So that just tells me that maybe this is something new for him with that yawn, right? So yawn is a good thing. Yawn means the brain is working. So anyone who has done any type of private lessons with me or has done any training with me, I always point out the yawn, right? And usually we see the yawn when we're making progress, when maybe we're pushing through some type of insecurity or whatever. We're making progress. The brain is working, okay? So let's keep going. Come on, Ford, let's go. Good. So engage leash. Good. He follows. Make turn. Engage leash. He follows. Make turn. Engage leash. He follows. Good boy. So notice I'm walking in a straight line right now. Yes, good boy. All right, so we're just working on following right now. Okay, I'm not having him sit. I'm not putting a command to this. I'm just saying, let's go. We're moving, right? Good boy. Good boy. Very first session again. Okay, so let's try again. Come on, forward, let's go. Move and turn. Turn. Good boy. He's following me. Good boy. So there's no engaging of the leash because he's following. Good boy. He's following. No engaging. So I'm going to just shorten up the leash a little. Just bring him to a stop. Give him a reward. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. So he's willing to follow. Which, again, most of the time, Great Danes, they're going to be willing to do things for you. They're usually not too challenging, but I have come across some that are challenging. Okay, but usually, again, they're a little bit kind of sensitive creatures, sensitive big giants. I mean, that's a lot of time why people get them because, they're sweet, sensitive, gentle giants. Oh boy, good boy. Okay, so let's try again. Come on, Ford, let's go. So we'll turn. I've got to engage the leash there. Okay. Turn. Good boy. Follows. I'm going to shorten up, come to a stop. Just reward. Good boy. Okay, so let's just test real quick. Ford, sit. Sit. Okay, so not sitting, right? Not sure if he, come on, doesn't know it, or I'm guiding him with the leash at the same time of luring him up with the food. And he's not going yet, so I'm not sure if he knows it just yet, right? But no problem. Come on, let's go. So we have some shaping to do there. Come on. Good. So right now we're just going to work on following. Guys, this is all part of relationship development here, right? Again, first time on the leash. I'm not going to be getting too demanding with him just yet, okay? So we wanted to evaluate, how does he follow? Does he put a lot of tension? Does he fight the leash, resist? Does he buck around? Does he try to bite it, right? I'm trying to evaluate all of that. Maybe he does know how to sit, but maybe he's just not wanting to do it right now, okay? So the other first thing I'm going to look at here, come on, boy, come on. I want to see his impulse control here, okay, and what it might take to stop him from, again, trying to get the treats off the ground, right? You can see that his focus goes elsewhere for right now, all right? Still a new environment, new place for him. So again, this is how we're going to be starting to shape some of his focus also by just doing our turning exercises is working on his focus, okay? And then doing our impulse control here. So I've got a couple treats in the hand. I'm going to throw them on the ground. He's smelling something else right now. Not really paying attention, right? So it might take a little bit of time for him to just get comfortable in the environment, for him to not care about what he hears, smells, and get him to be more comfortable to pay attention to me. Okay, so let's see. Got treats, throw on the ground. Good, he sees them. Yes, good boy. But, he's hearing something, so his focus went elsewhere, right? But he did see the treat. So again, what I'm trying to evaluate right now is if he sees the treat on the ground, is he going to impulsively pull me to try to get the treat, right? So, again, just trying to evaluate right now, what does he know? What does it take to maybe stop him if he tries to lunge or pull or anything like that? And again, really developing a relationship right now. I'm not too worried about him not wanting to do these things right now, okay? Maybe the next session or our third session today might be a little bit different, all right? So he got here yesterday. He wasn't too interested in his dinner, but he did eat all of his breakfast, okay? So that's a good sign of how comfortable he is. And yeah, I really think he's going to be a really good boy. Oh boy. Ford! Don't even know if he knows his name, right? So how am I going to test that? Ford! Good boy. I'm just going to call the name, making sure I'm behind him so that he actually has to turn to me. And as he turned and responded, I gave him a treat. So let's try again. Ford! Yes, good boy. Okay, so he responded. I presented the treat. He didn't want it, right? No problem, okay? So he was interested in the treats, but now he's not. So again, not a big deal for right now, okay? I could, even if he doesn't want the treats right now, I could just continue to work on the walking, right? So again, you know, what do we do when our dogs aren't interested in the food? Right? What do we do? How do we train them? Okay, eventually he will get interested in them as he gets more comfortable. But for now, I don't want to waste an entire session not making any progress, okay? Or just, you know, just kind of play it off for a dog like this. Okay, for a dog like this, I don't want to just waste it, okay? Maybe if we had a dog that was very insecure, maybe was aggressive and trying to bite us and things like that, had a lot of behavior problems, I might just be like, that's cool, let's hang out for this session, let's open him up, and then we'll keep building on that. But for him, we've seen he's willing to cooperate, right? So just because he's not taking the food doesn't mean we can't, come on forward, let's go. You know, start giving him some direction and start to shape things, right? And also what I'm looking to do through this is get him to focus on me, which then means whatever he's hearing and getting distracted with will start to fade away. All right, so maybe he'll start to become more comfortable quicker in the environment if I'm becoming the priority, right? So shift the state of mind from just standing there listening to things, getting in his own head, to follow me, right? Which is part of leadership. Good boy, come on forward. Good boy. Good boy. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. So one of the things I like right here is if I do have to engage the leash right here, come on. He picks his pace up a little bit. He tries. Good boy. So I like that. I like if the leash is being engaged, he's giving me effort. He's not fighting it, right? Good boy, come on. It's also part of maybe having a very large, giant dog like this. They're sort of used to pressure. You know, they're so big that they're used to, you know, having a leash on them. They're used to being controlled. They're used to having to follow because they're so large, right? So not the same thing as a lot of our small dogs. They're not used to that because we let them kind of do whatever they want, but you really can't let a dog this size, you know, do whatever he wants on the street. He's going to drag you, right? So maybe that's why he's more willing to follow right now, because he's just used to it. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. So let's test the food again. Yeah, good boy. So he took the treat, right? So, you know, what's different than, well, let's try again right here. Nothing, right? So as soon as you can see, as soon as he starts to hear something and pay attention is when he doesn't want the food anymore, right? Come on, let's go. Come on. Good boy. Come on, let's go. Okay. So just continuing to still walk in a straight line, going back and forth. Notice I'm not waiting for him, right? I'm leading him. I'm wanting him to be with me and catch up. Come on. So look, leash was engaged. Couple of jabs there, couple of pops to come forward. Notice that I'm not having to do too much work. I'm not dragging him, okay? I'm giving little jabs on the leash for him to catch up. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Let's try the food again. No. Okay. So it'll just take a little bit of time. But this is pretty good. I like where we're at. Yeah, look, some dogs, they come out, they're super eager. I'm able to accomplish 3, 4, 5 things at one time, right? I can work on the impulse control. We can start to work on heel. We can work on sit. Again, unfortunately, I wasn't able to, I didn't hit the button correctly, but I was trying to show you a live session with Callie just a little while ago, and we were able to work on multiple things simultaneously, okay? Obviously, she's been here for a few more days than he has, so she's a little bit more comfortable already. But again, you know, she was on the streets of Mexico for 3, 5 years. We don't know. She's anywhere between 3 and 5 years old right now, but she's a little bit more confident in general. So she's allowing herself to not pay so much attention to the environment and more to me. Okay, so I want to show you a session with her also. And part of this sort of live that I wanted to do right now was to show you how to maybe problem solve. If I come out and I want to do X, Y, and Z with the dog, but they're giving me A, B, and C, what do we do? Right? And if I want to do heels and sits and downs or whatever, but the dog's biting the leash, they're having a hard time, what do you do? Right? They're jumping all over you. What do you do? So there's a lot of real-time problem solving that has to happen when we're working with dogs, right? These are creatures with brains. So we might have a game plan and the dog might do something completely different and you're going to have to pivot. So I wanted to show you maybe how you're going to have to work through that, because a lot of the times this is what we're going to have to deal with on the leash when maybe you don't have a yard. You guys live in a high rise, you live in a condo, and you have to take the dog outside. You have to take them down to potty, and maybe you don't have 14 training sessions under your belt first before taking the dog out. And you're going to have to rely on sort of your leash control or leash management to work the dog through pulling, lunging, jumping, barking, all of those sort of behaviors that we're trying to curb, right? So I want to show you how to problem solve through those things while you're trying to teach, because that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem not knowing how to do those things, and then you take your dog out and they're just, they're misbehaving. They're lunging, barking, they're getting distracted, or they're insecure, they're fearful of things, right? And so really having just some leash control that has really nothing to do with obedience is going to be the tool to work on that. Because the faster that you can sort of gain control of them physically is the faster that you'll be able to shift the state of mind in the situation, and that's really what's lacking, okay? So, again, earlier when I didn't hit the button correctly, I was explaining yesterday that I had seen this lady. Let me keep walking, keep talking. Come on, boy. Come on forward. I saw this lady yesterday walking her border collie, and he was fairly thick boy. He was pretty big. And it started to react to a couple of labs across the street. Two owners were walking the two labs, one lady with the border collie. And the lady was really trying to control the border collie. She was really trying to let him know, hey, I don't want this behavior. I don't want you reacting. Come on, boy, come on. I don't want you reacting. But he was on a simple flat collar. Okay, he was just on his buckle collar. And she was pulling up. She was there. She was pulling up. She was telling him no. But all of his focus was staying on the other dogs. So she was trying, okay, but one, the tool was incorrect. The flat collar was incorrect and puts way too much pressure on the dog. So let's look right now on where are our tools located, right? So we have our rope lead, which is high on his neck, versus his flat collar, okay, with his tags, which is super low. I mean, we've probably got, 3, 4, 5 inches here between our lead and his collar. So imagine trying to pull this dog here on his flat collar with it this far down, with it so close to his shoulders. Okay, so one of the strongest parts of the dog's body is at the base of the neck where it meets the shoulder blades, which is here, which is right where his collar would be, especially if the dog is in front of you. The collar's automatically going to fall down, right? So placement of your tool is super important, and then obviously the type of tool. So she was doing a good job. It just had no effect. Well, then technically she wasn't doing a good job. I'm saying she was trying to address the behavior. It just had no effect. So maybe if she switched up, look, at that point, border collie, it's a very controlling dog by nature, okay? She probably needed to switch up to at least a prong collar. And with her technique, probably would have at least got the dog to stop pulling and lunging and barking in that situation, okay? Do I think, again, she should have done her work outside of that? Yes. Could you do no work outside of this and just put your dog in the situation with correct tools and correct technique and solve it? Yes, you could. So funny, when I see these things happening, I'm like, I picture myself. Could I just roll the window down right now as I'm driving and stop and tell her, give her some direction? I could, but I'm not going to impose myself on someone else, right? Whether they're doing something great or they're not doing it correct at all. Because she could have been doing a really good job and I could have told her, that's awesome. Like, great job that you were able to do all of that. But who am I to tell her that, right? I don't do that. I mean, sometimes you'll see, come on, boy. you'll see, like when we're on vacation or whatever and we see some owners doing something, I point it out as a teachable moment for you guys, but I'm never going up to anybody telling them that they've done something right or they've done something wrong. That's just not the way I am, and that's not the way I am even for other trainers either, right? I think that's unprofessional, right? So placement of collar and type of tool is going to obviously make a huge difference. Come on, boy. Right, so again, we are starting out with maybe the least intrusive collar here. In reality, it still puts pressure, right? This rope lead puts pressure. So what I'm really evaluating in the first sessions here is, how does dog respond to pressure? And does it give me the result I'm looking for if I have to apply the pressure? So right now, as I'm making these turns, when I apply pressure with the leash, does he follow, right? Is that enough pressure to have him follow? Or in the border collie situation that the lady was in yesterday, is that pressure enough to stop the behavior? So when we're asking about tools, what kind of tools do we use? What's the appropriate tool? Well, really, I'm just going off of, is it giving me the desired response I'm looking for? So is the dog following me if I have to put pressure? Or if my dog is lunging, pulling, barking, showing attitude, and we have to implement a leash correction, does that collar stop it? If it stops it, it's the correct tool. If it doesn't stop it, it's not the correct tool. And this is a big part of, of working on behaviors that are unwanted, has to do with, is the correction great enough, right? And so this is why I'm also always showing you guys dog-to-dog interactions, more specifically with little Honey, because she's correcting the dogs and we're trying to find out if her correction is enough. And usually it is. Usually it stops the other dog from doing whatever it is that she didn't want them to do. So therefore, her snapping is a great enough correction to stop them. So anytime you guys are still dealing with behaviors that you've been dealing with for 2 or 3 years and basically just managing them, it's really coming down to just not the correct correction. It's not the right, you haven't corrected it correctly. I don't want to say corrected correctly, but that's really what it is. Okay, because in reality, dogs only need one correction naturally with themselves to stop a behavior. So if we are basically just, again, managing the behavior for a few years, could be jumping, barking, getting in the trash, chewing on things, pulling, lunging, those things that we really want to implement as a rule not to do, they really are only happening because we haven't told the dog appropriately not to do them in a way that they understand. We have a question? What's the question?
Someone said, my dog only barks at dogs and he's on his leash. Why is that?
Well, could be a bunch of reasons, right? But again, we have ways to be, we have ways, I guess maybe I need to repeat the question. Okay, so my dog only barks on leash at other dogs.
Yes.
So it doesn't bark any other time.
Yes.
So, obviously I'm not sure, I'm not there to read the body language or whatever, right? Why is this happening? Or the other dogs, regardless of why, okay, a lot of times dogs are reacting to other dogs because the other dog's body language is poor. So Huskies, German Shepherds are notorious for this. Classically Huskies though, they walk around with a lot of poor body language. The tail's high, the ears are forward, shoulders are up, they're constantly scanning and looking for everything, really just because they're not paying attention to the owner, right? They're not in a humble state of mind, following, they're not healing, right? So therefore other dogs see that and they're like, nope, that's bad body language. Stop doing that, right? At the same time, your dog is also not in the correct state of mind. It's not healing, it's not paying attention to you, because look, the idea is regardless if another dog is, again, I don't know if the other dog is barking at your dog, but regardless if they are, I want to teach my dogs to ignore them. Okay, so here we're in California, there's a lot of homeless people. There's a lot of people with some mental illnesses, right? They might be yelling, causing a scene. What do? We just let them do their thing and we don't pay any attention to them, right? So we need to teach our dogs to do the same thing. Mind your own business. Come on. Follow me, right? So Again, I'm going to also assume to be able to stop that. Come on, boy. Stop that barking on the leash. I want you to be able to stop other behaviors also. But simply, your dog's barking, flick the leash. You need to correct the barking. But I want you to, again, I try to be more proactive than reactive. So what are we doing to keep our dogs focus on us so that they don't bark at other dogs, right? Versus kind of just allowing them to do whatever they want, which is probably why the barking is happening in the first place, right? Do we have expectations of them on the leash? Are they following us? Are we testing them? Are we making sure there's no tension on the leash? If we stop, do they stop? Have we worked on impulse control? Okay?
So she says he's a 13-month-old Doberman who is trained, and it's only when other dogs come running up.
Okay, so 13-month-old Doberman that's trained and only barks when other dogs come up to him. So one, training is subjective. When someone says my dog's trained, what does that mean? Right? So trained to me means he has skills and tools between the two of you that you can use to communicate to the dog to teach them right and wrong behavior. That's what's trained to me. That's what it means to me, which is what we develop here, right? We do a strong foundation in obedience and communication skills with an emphasis on patience and self-control, so I can hold my dog accountable for the barking in real life situations. So by being trained, just because the dog has skills, just because they can heel and sit and down and stay, doesn't mean the dog listens to you. That's the part we need to work on. So obedience doesn't equal cooperation and listening, okay? It equals educated. Right? So kids can go to school and be very well educated, but they cannot listen at home. So same thing here. Just because these dogs are getting a strong foundation doesn't mean they're going to listen to their owners. We need the owner to now use that and raise the dog. So then my question to you is, when your dog, okay, so one, are these dogs are actually coming up and physically approaching your dog? Because might be making your dog feel defensive, right? So I'm not going to allow that to happen. Because in reality, if a dog were to rush up to Ford and I right now, Ford has every right to bark, right? Now, if they're across the street, that's a different story. If they're behind a gate, that's a different story, right? So that's the first part. Well, we broke all that down. What does trained really mean? Have you done 1,000 reps of your training? And then two, well, what are we doing to be proactive there? Okay, are we making sure our dog's following, healing in a correct state of mind, testing them before there's dogs present? And then three, are the dogs actually are these off-leash dogs that are running up to you? Are these people that you're coming across on the sidewalk that they're allowing them to just come up to your dog, right? Because if that's the case, I got to advocate for my dog. I got to tell that person, no. Please keep your dog away, right? My dog's in training. My dog doesn't like other dogs. Whatever it is, I don't mind if I have to tell him that my dog's aggressive. We have this weird understanding that if we have to maybe tell this person, no, keep your dog away, please, that means that we are bad dog owners because we don't allow our dog to go up to another dog. I don't let Honey meet other dogs on the street. I've never, even when I had Diesel, I didn't allow that to happen because he's a dominant dog. And there's most likely he was going to check a dog and then they might throw attitude and he's going to get in a fight. He was dominant. So I had to advocate for him, right? So the same thing here with these dogs that come in. We don't meet random dogs out on the street because I can't control that situation and I don't know the other dogs, regardless of how much the owner's going to tell me. Oh, he's friendly. He's so friendly. Doesn't matter if the dog is friendly. I show you friendly. Honey's friendly, but she snaps at dogs to set rules. Now you add in tight leash, tension, owner insecurity. It's a recipe for disaster. Okay? So what I would probably do with your dog is I would take him outside, Work your downstay outside in the neighborhood, in your environment. I want you to work your downstay. You need to teach them to be patient outside. So that way you can see dogs across the street. Because again, I'm not sure, do we have an answer yet?
No, but we have another question.
So work your downstay outside. You need to be able to see things happening, see dogs go by, and either reward your dog for doing good, or you need to check them for the barking, right? So you can set that expectation. You're obviously saying, I don't want him to bark, so we need to set the expectation, okay? So again, there's a lot of nuance here, and there's a lot of context behind these things. It isn't just as simple as, what do I do, right? Of course, I can give you quick tips or exercises, but I don't know the context of everything, right? Okay, what's the other question?
What type of correction technique would you use for a reactive Frenchie? We use a harness for less strain on his throat, but doesn't help control his frustration on walks.
Well, perfect. You already have an understanding that it doesn't help, right? So yes, I mean, I would say about 50% of the dogs that come in for training are on a harness, which just makes pulling worse. But see, the point about okay, look, if you could use your jab technique here on the harness and your dog stops, then it's an okay tool. It's okay, right? But because dogs, why do we use a collar? We use a collar because dogs control each other by the neck. That's why. Mom picks up pup by neck. Dogs play by grabbing their neck. Dogs control each other by grabbing their neck. But it's not only dog. Natural world, big cats, lions, house cats, bears, giraffes fight with neck, okay? Nature is controlled by neck. So the point of putting our dogs on a leash is not to just tether them to us. The point is to have control. The point is to use the leash to build a language to have control. Okay, so I think the point there is that we need to build more of a language of your leash and the two of you before sticking them outside. Because if he's already fighting the leash, then he's not in the correct state of mind of learning to follow, which probably we need to, the frustration when the reacting or the barking is coming from a lack of impulse control, no patience, no self-control, poor decision making, lack of focus, doesn't pay attention. Those are the 5 or 6 things that are causing the frustration and the reaction. So this is where we need to work on it here. Just quick, thing that happened here. He decided to lay down. Why? Well, because we've been walking back and forth. It's been 20, 30 minutes already. And so he's kind of giving in to, let me just relax, which is a good sign. Okay? So we need to backtrack. Going back to technique and tool, I would put a collar on him. The whole point of, I get it. The reason why we eventually progress to putting a dog on a harness is because we haven't taught them how to be on a leash. So therefore, they cough, they choke, they hack because they fight it, put pressure on their neck, and then obviously we don't want that, so we swap to the harness, which then just makes it worse. So we have plenty of videos of showing anything from my little 5-pound Chihuahua, Honey, being on a martingale collar, obviously up to, big Rottweilers or Great Danes like this being on a collar. So the point is, we need to put the collar on, and then we need to do some teaching with it on. We need to teach the dog how to go with the collar and how to not put pressure. So we have, last year, French Bulldogs were our most popular breed we trained. I mean, we've already trained 2 since we've been back for a month. We have Bowie right now, and we first had him on a rope lead collar on a leash, and then we swapped him over to a prong collar because we felt that it was a better tool for him. It was just a better tool. We were getting the correct response. So I would definitely switch from the harness right now because it's already built up. He's already built up, resistance. Also, the point is, dogs naturally do not grab each other by the body. They snap at each other. They don't grab the body and pull as if a harness would, right? So thinking again that how do dogs communicate naturally? They communicate by snapping at the neck or just snapping in general, but majority of the time, if they're, trying to get the point across, it's snapping, but they do control by the neck. So I would use rope lead. I would use a martingale collar. maybe a star mark, plastic prong collar, maybe a prong collar. You know, that would be the escalation that I would be trying first with teaching. Now, again, you could just throw one of those collars on, go outside, and just check some of that, and it could totally work, especially because you haven't implemented that type of control. So sometimes when you've been allowing a behavior to happen, and then all of a sudden you step in with this newfound sensation and control, it could stop the behavior right away. But it could also build frustration because he's been allowed to pull and get frustrated, and then now you come in with a little bit more control, and the dog's like, no way, I don't want this. You can't have control. So remember, French bulldogs, half of the name is bulldog. We almost forget, right? We just call them Frenchies, and we forget that it's a bulldog. They're bullies, right? They could be stubborn, they're pushy, they're controlling, they could have attitude, right? So you want to look at the bulldog side. In reality, I want to look at the dog side of all dogs, regardless if it's little 5-pound honey. Hey, she's still a dog, right? So she's controlling, she's demanding, she could be dominant. So therefore, I have to focus on that side of her, meaning I have to have that control. So maybe swap up the collar to something a little bit that puts a little bit of pressure, but make sure you do teaching with it. We only have a few more minutes. We have a new dog checking in. We have another question.
He just responded. He said, thank you, so maybe start practicing with the slip lead inside, and then...
Correct.
He said, that's exactly what it is. I let him say hi to too many dogs as a puppy. He's 14 months now and trying to implement new rules.
So there it is, right? So yes, practice with the leash inside. Guys, you got to have the leash inside. You can't only put the leash on when you go outside. The dog needs to understand that the leash is an extension of us. We're trying to build value to it, right? So if you pull the leash to tell him to stop barking, he needs to say, all right, dad's telling me to stop barking, right? So yes, practice with leash on inside and really put an emphasis on patience and self-control, okay? So work your downstays inside with the leash on. Your goal is 1 hour. You need to be able to vacuum, mop the floors, answer the door, cook, clean, eat. The dog holds the stay, right? Obviously, we're always showing the teaching phase of that, and then we implement it, right? So, if we're allowing them to meet dogs all the time, then sure, we've sort of created that behavior and expectation from the dog side of, hey, Dad, we always meet dogs. And then when you want to try to stop him, he's like, but we always meet. That's why I want to, in order to create permission or give permission, you first have to extinguish a behavior. You first have to teach the dog, we're not allowed to. So whether that be jumping or getting on furniture with permission, okay, you have to teach them no first, and then you can allow them. So don't meet any dogs from now on. Then once you get a little bit more control, you can start to add it in, okay? We got to go.
The first person that asked the question, she wanted to know your thoughts on e-collar.
I like e-collar, but it needs to be layered in, right? We do some e-collar training, but first we need leash training foundation, okay? E-collar is a great tool if your dog understands how to relieve pressure. So, look, e-collar is a great tool to just stop certain behaviors quickly because you don't need to be really present to correct the behavior. A lot of times, your dog's digging outside, but maybe he doesn't dig whenever you're out there with him. He only digs when you're inside. So that would be a good tool for you to stop the digging, but you're coming from nothing but pure correction there, right? So correcting behaviors quickly with an e-collar is great, okay? But actually teaching it as a tool with language, it takes leash training first. So meaning the dog needs to know how to mind pressure, turn pressure on and off, then you can layer in the e-collar, okay? So I think some proper teaching needs to be done with the e-collar, right? So focus on leash foundation first, layer in the e-collar, because if not, they can freak out with it. They don't know the sensation. They don't know how to even deal with leash pressure first. And then all of a sudden you come in with the e-collar and it just throws them all off. Okay, so 2 different ways to use it. Correcting quick behavior or actually building a language with it. Okay, We'll go into a little bit more. We've been working Dia a lot over it. That's something I want to talk to you guys about more in detail, is Dia, being that we've had her for 8 months. Okay, and now we are going to adopt her. But I want to talk to you about how we've been molding her over the course of 8 months. So my own dog, you know, Diesel, that we put down a year ago, he was 12. And then Honey, who's 12, I've raised them from puppies. Dia's my first dog that is coming in as a rescue dog that's a little bit more mature, that I haven't raised as a puppy. But I want to talk to you about how we've been molding her behavior and her skills over the course of 8 months, and sort of where she's at right now with us. Okay? So we're going to do these again. Unfortunately, we got to go. We have another dog checking in. But thank you for the questions. And like, we'll keep, you know, helping as much as we can. And yeah, it was really cool. Thanks for the questions. I hope we helped a little bit. Come on, boy.